insurance plan
is addressed. This is what's needed to stop, cure, and cure tick-borne disease illness. Next, we have to understand the environmental tick problem. While the black-legged tick is responsible for most illness in New York State, the dog tick and the Lone Star tick are also responsible for tick-borne diseases here. The new H. longicornis invasive Asian tick was found about 2 years ago in New Jersey, and it has spread. Now we found it in 12 states, so we certainly didn't have enough surveillance to catch it earlier. It's a very serious threat for New York and for the entire nation. It actually doesn't even need a male, it just clones itself. And thank goodness it doesn't like the mice, but larger animals, and it has actually desanguinated, taken the blood out of cattle, and they've died. And the diseases that it carries in Asia are very serious indeed. And we're hoping that, although there's a cattle tick hair illness, we haven't found any human pathogens yet, but it's just a matter of time. Take a look at the poppy seed bagel. There are 5 nymphal ticks on them. Can you see them? I can't. And it's the tick that you don't see that gives you Lyme disease. So the problem's grown way beyond just one disease, and other fatal and hemorrhagic and encephalopathic tick-borne diseases and other ticks are bound to make it to our shores. A Lyme vaccine only is merely a patch and not a solution for the environment or for us. This CDC pie chart using 2017 numbers shows what a menace the ticks are here in the United States. Notice only 5% of the vector-borne diseases are caused by mosquitoes or fleas in the United States, and all of the rest are caused by ticks. How did it get this bad? So this is Dr. Rick Ostfeld's reservoir risk chart. He's a scientist at the Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies. Notice the mouse, the chipmunk, and the shrew are most responsible for spreading disease, while the deer is not. And this is a huge environmental problem, a huge tick environmental problem, and I hope these pictures gross you out. I really do. Tick research holds the most potential to bring about fruitful solutions. I'll pause a minute while you read this chart. Right now, personal and property prevention is all we have in our bag of tricks to protect ourselves. It would logically seem that our government has failed us by not addressing this earlier. So what can be done? Oh, we did this, okay. So I organized tick research to eliminate disease, TREAD, a scientist coalition. It's comprised with about 40 prestigious scientists who unilaterally support the critical importance of tick research and call for it to become a priority. When I speak with federal and state representatives, TREAD provides a strong voice for the critical importance of this longest neglected field of science that can prevent a catastrophe from worldwide tick-borne diseases and ticks. Current research is delivering viable options for which we must investigate. This is a summary of most of what is available or being considered today. No one thing is a silver bullet, and some of them must be used together. None of them have been done in a large enough area to show its effectiveness in reducing disease, and that has yet to be done. Here are some preventions that are currently in use. Notice this is a high-pressure spray that is being used, probably with permethrin, to have a knockdown. It has a knockdown rate of, the scientists have gotten 95 to 100% knockdown rate of ticks. That means killing. When they come in and they just have a backpack on them, the pest control operators, that's a low-pressure spray, and that's only been shown to be about 60% effective. With 40% of the ticks left on your yard, that's not good. Don't allow them to do it. And here are many things currently being evaluated, and I think you're going to be seeing some of them very soon. The anti-tick research would have stopped disease cold in its tracks by preventing ticks from being able to remain attached, thus their ability to transmit disease pathogens. It is no longer NIH funded. It might also have reduced tick populations. So what is the cost burden of Lyme disease in New York State and the US? Well, the latest numbers we have is for 2017. And as you can see, I'll switch over here. In that year, it cost the United States of America, considering the numbers of people reported, it cost just under $5 billion. And between 1990 and 2017, the total cost is estimated at just over $72 billion. Kind of outrageous. Wait till you see what the funding has been for research. Now, you'd think that that was bad, but look at this for New York State. That year, over $1 billion. Kind of crazy. So, and that was using New York State numbers. So there's a huge difference between the New York State numbers and the CDC numbers. The CDC is only actually allowed to use the surveillance case numbers, whereas New York State, because of the huge cost to the local counties in counting and doing surveillance, they figured out a statistical methodology where they don't count every case that comes from the lab, and they uplift that 20% to 100%. And they tried that for a number of years and compared it and proved that it was correct. So the problem is that, so that actually, if you'll take a look, the numbers are about 50% of what the CDC numbers are that the CDC reports. And that is really a huge problem, not just in New York State, but in other states as well. And the CDC really doesn't know how to get around that. They're only allowed to report those surveillance case numbers. So they've got to really do something about it. So chronic illness is a huge cost burden to society. And these two research projects show that 85% of our healthcare dollars are consumed with chronic illness, and that Lyme is a chronic disease. This NIH funding chart is really interesting. Take a look at it. It shows while Lyme disease cases are higher than other diseases and numbers increase, the funding was not commensurate with this. Again, like the NIH, the CDC Lyme disease numbers went up, funding did not. The United States must develop a proactive, forward-looking approach in response to this ever-increasing problem. Serious worldwide threats abound. Some are certain to make it to our shores. The Asian invasive H. longicornis tick should serve as a wake-up call, and I think it is. That, along with news about other serious worldwide pathogens such as Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever and tick-borne encephalitis, etc., and many other tick species, which are threats on the horizon, are bound to make it to our shores. When a 3-year girl goes to one of our parks and comes home and has 32 nipple ticks removed from her body, you know it's way past time to have something done about the ticks. Children ages 5 through 9 are most at risk. We need to protect our children. I look forward to the day when children can roll in the grass and jump in the leaves as I was once able to do. They should not be getting sick merely by going outside to play. Thank you very much, and I'll turn this over to Ira, who will discuss some legislation.
Good morning. The shirt, just all you to see, it was actually developed in the 1990s by someone we know who's not very active, although she called us just the other day. Why is it a political disease? We're going to show you a little bit. The federal level. These are 3 federal representatives who we utilized to get a bill inserted on tick-borne disease into the 21st Century Cures Act. There isn't a lot of time, so I'm not going to take you through the nightmare, but I will tell you that Saturday of Thanksgiving, we found out that the Congress had gutted the bill that had been passed in the House of Representatives. And we spent 2 days with a group of people around the country getting that changed. And frankly, Kevin McCarthy was the key reason. We knew at that time, it was not public knowledge, it is now, so I don't have any problem saying it, that he had 1 child with chronic Lyme disease. Turns out he has 2 children with chronic tick-borne illness. And Kevin, basically working through some other Congress people, said, you will reinsert the language that these people want. So we got it. And now there is a section 2062 in the 21st Century Cures Act that actually specifies what has to be done as 3 2-year terms. The first 2-year term ended last year. The report was issued to Congress. Jill and Holly, were both on one of the different subcommittees of that. And we know from conversation Jill had in the car as we drove up yesterday that the NIH thinks, at least it's one senior person at NIH, that it has made a difference. They are starting to wake up in Washington that there is a major problem in this country. So here are the 6 subcommittees. Holly was on the, where is it down here? Testing and diagnostics. And Jill, you were on the, which one? Disease vectors and surveillance. And the second group is now started. They started about a month and a half, 2 months ago. They have till next year to produce another report for Congress. There will be a third group. The law actually required 3 2-year, if you will, terms. They are not focusing on Lyme disease this time. They're focusing on other tick-borne diseases in addition to Lyme. And the bill was written as a tick-borne disease, not as a Lyme disease, because Lyme is just a sentinel that we all know about. But as Jill pointed out, there are many other diseases. New York State level. Now I'm showing you here are the actual people involved with the bills that we've gotten passed in the last 5 years. Dee Dee is a local assembly member in our area. Dick Godfrey is the chair of the Health Committee, and he's been instrumental in getting us what we need. On the Senate side, Ken Bannon, who's no longer there, and Sue Serino, who is still there. Now, it's interesting to note from a political standpoint, I call it a political problem, Democrats in the Assembly, Republicans in the Senate. That's now flipped. We have Democrats in the Senate and Republicans in the Assembly who are now supporting these bills. In fact, Your two senators have both been proactive, and several new senators, first termers, have put bills forward. Now, specifically, I didn't go. Where it goes. The first bill we got was what we called a patient choice bill. It was really a doctor protection bill. Because if the doctors weren't being protected, some of them had told us personally, because we knew a bunch of them, that they were going to close their shops because they just couldn't keep fighting the state. And this bill has helped a great deal. Once again, the Department of Health of the state of New York is acting up, but we're back dealing with political representatives to try and quiesce that. There were about 5 other bills that were signed into law. The last bill in red here is one that just passed this year, has not been signed by Governor Cuomo. Just to show you how this works, it's a bill that we were quote unquote well aware of. Dee Dee was the one who sponsored it in the assembly. We kept meeting with her folks and they kept telling us, yeah, we're doing that, and Jill and I are on Sue Serino's advisory board. And we thought it was the same bill that she and Sue had put out. Well, it wasn't. And when the Democrats took over the Senate this past year, a new senator from Long Island, Garvin, decided to match up with Dee Dee's bill, and they got that passed almost unanimously. Sue voting against it, I might add. But the bottom line is, we read the bill and were absolutely aghast. And we created a letter with the Lyme Action Network, and you guys have signed on, you may not know it, but Mike reviewed it for us. Southern Tier reviewed it for us, and we have a letter that went to the governor that said this bill should not be signed as is. There's a thing called chapter amendments where you can modify it, and the concern here is that the original bill was going to ask to look at insurance coverage, is it adequate? And it was going to ask something called the Cost Containment Committee, which was passed into legislation 6-8 years ago, but was never actually implemented. Governor Cuomo killed that. And this bill that you see in red there is going to basically the Commissioner of Health, who is not a patient-friendly guy. We've had numerous dealings with him, and unfortunately he's not on our side. He thinks it's easily treated and cured. The controversy goes on. And so we, just this week, Chris Fisk checked with the governor's office, and they are reviewing the letter that you guys signed on to. So hopefully we'll get that fixed. We will get a bill that will actually be patient-friendly and will look at getting insurance coverage for all of those who need it. That's it. Any questions for Jill or I? By the way, if we just left them off the ark, we'd be in a lot better shape. Okay. Rebecca?